Actually, it's the lead play in our offense.
Yes, a YN or a tight end to open up somewhere between 6 feet and 9 feet. Get an isolation with the linebacker. Tell the tackle to take the defensive end if he's over him. If he's not, to drive down on the first man to his inside. If the YN has the linebacker taken out, he cuts inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. If you look at this play, what we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here. And try to run this play in the alley.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on Packernet.com. You can find me on Twitter at Packers_access. I'm joined alongside the great Jake Shavink from the It's Always Draft Season podcast here on the Packernet Podcast Network. Obviously got an awesome YouTube channel as well. Jake, where can they find your YouTube channel? Right off the cuff, I want to get these guys turned on to what you're doing.
It's Jake Shavink NFL. It's a little hard to spell. Might have to. I can send you the link via like Twitter messaging if you want to
Cool.
do that or something.
Yeah, good deal.
It's a tough one to find with the last name being so difficult to spell. It's something I've dealt with my entire life, so it's that's what it is. But
Gotcha. I guarantee if you search Jake NFL Draft, it'd probably prop up too. But anyway, we'll get you guys that link for sure. He is the draft authority here at Packernet Podcast, no doubt about it. I know we've got a ton of people in here in the chat already. We're just going to kind of hang out. We got a couple coaching changes within the Green Bay Packers. We're going to talk a little bit of Senior Bowl recap, which obviously Jake was down there for the practices. We got to watch the game today. As me and Jake were talking about, a little bit uneventful, but at the same time, get a lot of info out of that week altogether, right? So it'll be a lot of fun to dive into that as well. I know we got Blake in the house. Blake says, I've got some vintage Monday Night Football on tonight. Packers at the Bears, 1995. Dave Onstad is Chicago's coach. You love it, man. You love to see that. So it's cool. A little bit of ties there, right? As we got a new defensive coordinator in Jeff Hafley, and obviously he coached under Dave Wanstead years later at Pitt, if I remember correctly. So a couple little connections there anyway. Nice. So yeah. All right, let's just come through the chat one more time here, and then like I said, I want to get your takeaway on everything as we go through the coaching changes. Jake, let's see. United Bates, appreciate it, buddy. Just gifted 5 Packer Fan Total Access memberships. So we got 5 new members of the PTA posse. Congratulations, gang. Looks like Donald got one. That's awesome. Donald's always in. Yeah, so good stuff. Good stuff. And it looks like United Bates actually pulled that information up. There is the YouTube channel. So hop off this show right now. Go over there and make sure you are subscribed. And if you've got a better computer than my 87 Apple, then you could probably just open up another window and do that too. So there you go. Right.
There you go. United Bates, the legend, always putting in work during
a blessing, man.
During the streams. It's good stuff.
So we had a couple coaching changes today. Actually 3 coaching changes. We have 1 hire and a couple guys let go. This one really didn't surprise me, Jake, with how the defensive line has kind of struggled with consistency. It seems like the edges are producing quite a bit of pressure. The interior defensive line is creating pressure too, but obviously the run defense has been less than stellar there. Not grading out too well, according to PFF as well. But Matt Schneiden tweeted out sources. Packers defensive line coach and run game coordinator Jerry Montgomery is not returning next season on Jeff Hafley's staff. Montgomery has been with Green Bay since 2015. Wow. And already has multiple opportunities to coach elsewhere. I'm sure he will have no problem finding work. Jake, what's your initial reaction to that as far as Jerry Montgomery? I mean, he's been around for quite some time now, right?
Yeah, I think you brought up the right word, consistency. I think that was honestly just a struggle with, some of these young guys who obviously, you're hoping to see development in certain areas. I think Devontae Wyatt's probably the most recent example, right, of a player that we knew was a really, really good pass rusher, right? He was coming and being that player. He even elevated that really this year, but you see some of the struggles against the run and Montgomery being the run game coordinator. It just felt like a lot of the execution there was lacking. And so, yeah, I think it makes sense, but yeah, hopefully he can line some work up elsewhere and get back to the coaching circle. But it felt like it was time.
Yeah. I agree. And one other thing that's kind of happened too, through this whole interviewing process, we've brought in a lot of candidates that I think everyone would agree we would be really surprised if they had got the DC job. Which, surprise, we got Jeff Hafley. I don't think anybody's seen that one coming. Well, the only time will tell if it's a good hire. Obviously, very bright young mind in the game, but you bring in some of these other guys like Adden Dirty, and you also had Christian Parker, and I'm kind of wondering as they start to clean house, what if one of those guys that you actually had in to interview for the DC job, if they impress so much, maybe you can still give them a promotion from their current position where they're at and bring them on staff, right? Like, let's say that you do have to go with a new passing game coordinator, right? And let's say, obviously, you need a new run D coordinator. I don't know what Adden Dirty's official title is, if he got promoted or not, since, Dan Campbell obviously exited for Washington. It'd be kind of cool to bring someone like that in too. Maybe they were eyeing people like that, at a distance, kind of like, hey, yeah, let's put this staff together. Now, obviously, Jeff Hafley going to want to bring as many of his guys as possible, but I don't see any Packer fans kind of, standing on the bench, screaming for any of his assistants at BC, right? We don't look at that coaching staff and go, wow, there's a stud, right? Or am I wrong there, Jake?
Yeah, probably not. I think, Clayton, you obviously brought up a lot of the numbers from what was, what had happened at BC the last couple seasons. Obviously not favorable results, but I do think, like, personnel wise, it's a little bit of a struggle, right? From the college game to getting guys there, right? And obviously having a COVID year with a lot of them, and when he kind of took over. And so there was a lot of, work to do in that regard. So it hasn't been the easiest development track there, but I do think, Hafley probably has connections around the league, right? Having been, a DB's coach for a long time there, that he might be able to find some guys to bring in that way. Yeah, I don't imagine we'll see it. I know there's talk about, Ohio State. He's got some connections there that he could bring on to the staff. But yeah, I imagine it'll be, from there, or maybe, as we mentioned, probably from NFL circles in some capacity.
Yeah, that's actually what me and Ryan Schlip were talking about through text message earlier. I kind of mentioned, man, I'd like to see him go after like a D line coach for one of these of the top defenses in the NFL, right across the league. Like, maybe you could pluck someone still from Baltimore, maybe San Francisco, or maybe even Kansas City. Although those teams didn't have great run defenses, when you're specifically talking about someone to bring in as a D line or a run coordinator, defensive run coordinator. Might want to kind of dip into some of these teams that obviously have played the run a little bit better. And if we were to pull that up and we just go opponent yards per rush attempt, right off the bat, the top 5 teams that allowed the least amount of rushing yards per attempt was New England, Houston, Minnesota, Chicago, Tennessee. Tampa, I think, was the 6th best, 5th best scoring, 4th best scoring defense in points per play. They were 5th in points per game. That might be somewhere that you want to kind of comb through the coaching ranks there. And another one too that really stands out to me here, Jake, is the New York Jets, because obviously the last time that Jeff Hafley was in the league, he coached under Robert Saleh there in San Francisco. You'd like to think that the closest thing we'll probably see to Jeff Hafley's defense that we may have already seen, I should say, probably going to be the Jets, because there's been a couple interviews I've watched with Hafley, and he's makes it very, very clear. And this is when he was still the coach at BC. So it wasn't like he was, provoked to talk about these things because he was the new DC in Green Bay. Obviously, this was long before that hire happened. But he mentions just how different the pro game is from the college game. So kind of got me thinking maybe look to the New York Jets a bit if he does go try to find some of those old connections, across the league, with maybe some guys that he might be familiar with there. And I'm sure Robert Saleh wouldn't want to hear that, but hey, that's the name of the game in the league, right?
Yeah, it is. It's guys get poached for, promotions. That's how it goes. And that's and it's the tough part about, being a head coach is, you have to, if you're doing well enough and you have units performing really well, it's like, okay, well, now we're going to have to reload a bit, right? We always think about player, reloading. We don't think about, coach reloading very much, right? Obviously, Baltimore is going to have to do that in a major capacity this offseason too. So yeah, if Hafley goes with the connection to Saleh and finds some guys in New York who, probably doing a pretty good job and, brings them in, yeah, I think that's a really nice place to look.
Yeah, I agree. New England's fascinating to me because, obviously Belichick was the glue to that defense for the last, what felt like 100 years. But the fact that they had such a stout run defense in Houston too, and it kind of gives you hope because D'Amico Ryans, first of all, let's kind of trace it back, right? Robert Saleh was in San Francisco before he took the New York Jets job. D'Amico Ryans takes over as DC. I don't know if it was immediately after that, but it was, it may have been immediately after that. It might have been, a year or two in between, but D'Amico Ryans takes over that defense there in San Francisco. You would imagine that Houston's defense is somewhat similar to Robert Saleh's approach, and Houston having the second best rushing defense as far as yards per carry allowed. That might be somewhere you want to kind of reach in there. I imagine D'Amico probably took some with him from San Francisco as well. So probably got some choices there as well. I hope we don't hear BC. That's my only worry.
A great note on Houston is like you mentioned, they're really good against the run this year. This is a team that for the last 3 years, bottom of the barrel run defense in the league. It was almost, you think about like, oh, Houston's playing the Titans this week. Well, Derrick Henry 200, like that was always like the thing that was the case with them. And to go that quickly to be like, oh, this is, a cupcake team to rush against, right? They just give it up in bunches to we're one of the best in the league. That's a big jump. I mean, yeah, hard not to notice down there what's going on. So,
and one thing too that's common practice, especially this time of year when coaching hires take place. Obviously, you've seen we lost Luke Getsy to Chicago. The year before we lost Nathaniel Hackett to Denver. So, sometimes you see, obviously with Chicago, and you've seen it with Minnesota with several defensive coaches a few years ago. You like to kind of poach from within the division. It is worth noting too that Minnesota had the third best rush defense and Chicago had the fourth best. So who knows? Detroit's sitting in the 8th spot. So, when you pluck from those teams, you get a little bit of intel brung along with it. Obviously, it goes without saying. But also you're kind of making that organization a little bit weak too. But again, it's got to be a promotion, can't be a lateral move. It can get blocked, all that good stuff. So probably not even worth talking about, but here we are. Anytime a coaching change happens, I don't know, I'm fascinated by this time of year. The coaching carousel, college football is too complex for me to keep up with, Jake, with the coaching changes. Yeah. I'm just lost because there's so many teams. But the NFL, man, it's like I wait for that Ian Rappaport notification to see that the custodian at this team is now taking a job here to – whatever. It's just, I love it.
It's wild. It feels like we're at the point where it's every day. Like every day, it was like, it was yesterday. I think it was like Liam Cohen, Tampa Bay, OC. Like there it is. It's just like, there's so much going on.
Alex Van Pelt, right?
Yep.
If I remember correctly. Yeah.
That's another one. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually, I like that hire. There's another hire too that I like that I think I'm in the minority with. Arthur Smith to Pittsburgh. I kind of like, although, I know that Najee doesn't really fit that whole wide zone set up there, but I think Arthur Smith it's kind of quite the opposite, right? But I do like him as a coach. I think he was a good coordinator, and I think he is a bright mind. It just seems like in Atlanta, that organization, it's in the front office is where the problem is. It just seems like Arthur Blank has kind of got himself surrounded by a bunch of yes men, and anytime you turn down the greatest coach in history, and you just kind of chalk it up to, this isn't the right move, but you kept the majority of your front office on hand. That's just kind of a weird look, but
it's going to be interesting in Atlanta this year for sure.
We'll see how it unfolds. But we had another move here. Rob Demovsky tweeted out Packers defensive quality control coach Justin Hood is joining the Falcons as secondary coach. He's reunited with Jerry Gray in Atlanta. So you could see, I imagine quality control is lower than secondary coach. So that is technically a promotion. It wasn't a lateral move. So now we're going to be looking to fill our defensive quality control coach, which that kind of leads you to believe it's going to be a bottom of the barrel type guy, an entry level type guy. And I imagine that Matt LaFleur's probably got someone in mind, or maybe that's someone that you bring in from a BC, right? One of those lower quality control type positions where you can, go to Jeff Hafley and say, hey, look, pick your go-to guy on the defensive side of the ball with that staff, right? And that could be the quality control coach. I would be okay with that.
Yeah, that seems fine. Yeah, that I've heard as soon as I started reading that, I'm like, wait a minute, he's joining somebody, and it's Jerry. I forgot Jerry Gray is down there as well. So so much going on.
For sure. We were talking about the run defense. Let's do this real quick too. I've got explosives here. Let's just take a quick glance On the far left side are your explosive run plays. Okay, so just to put that, kind of put things into perspective, Green Bay gave up 47 explosive runs. It wasn't the very bottom, but it was definitely in the bottom half of the league. Who are some of the green numbers here when it comes to explosives? Miami, right? Miami. Obviously, that was our boy Vic Fangio down there before he joined Philly.
Interesting.
Again, you see New England there controlling the explosives. You got Detroit. So Detroit kind of highlighted Tampa. We talked about them. So, Detroit might be somewhere to kind of take a peek behind the blinds there and say, hey, what do you guys got in there for us for a defensive line?
Well, they got Alan McNeil in there, all 335, 340 of Alan McNeil helping you out, and they got good linebackers who play downhill, and I think they're really good personnel there to handle the run when McNeil's in. But that's the Miami one. Honestly, a little mind-boggling there. Number one.
That is wild.
Oh,
I would be
thought of that.
I would like to know what Christian Parker. I need to look that up. It's going to drive me crazy. I need to know what Christian Parker's actual position is right now, because I know he didn't get a DC job, obviously. I wonder if he got a promotion or anything, because that's the one that kind of sticks out to me. If you do move forward with a new passing game coordinator, that might be the guy right there. That might be the one that you try to bring in, because he was just a DB coach, right? Am I thinking right? So that would be a promotion.
Yes, I think he is just a DB coach, right? Yeah. Not just that. Just as the run. No, he's a DB coach, but he's a DB coach so that he can be promoted to a passing game coordinator. Yes, sorry.
No,
he's tip top. He's at the tip. You're coaching the NFL. They're not just anything. There's you've kind of made it. So
our normal viewers and listeners are going, who is this guy? He's way too nice. He's used to us being so toxic in here. I guarantee you they're going, this guy, he's way too professional for this program. Brady Henderson tweeted out, former Rams, Vikings, and Seahawks quarterback Sean Mannion is ending his 9-year NFL playing career and has accepted a position on the Packers coaching staff, a source tells me. He'll work with quarterbacks and the passing game. I seen this and I went, okay, that's one of LaFleur's guys, obviously from the Rams, that type of thing. And then I immediately went, oh, no, please tell me Tom Clements isn't leaving, right? That's immediately the first thing I thought of. So what do you think, Jake? Am I reading too deep there, man?
Oh, yeah, it's getting me going now. I'm like, no, we can't have that. Whatever Tom Clements needs, he needs a private suite every Sunday. I don't care. Give him what he wants. He's done a phenomenal job, but it's interesting. The teams that Mannion play for, you kind of note all of those. You go, oh yeah, like if it was recent with Minnesota enough, it's like, oh yeah, O'Connell's there. He came from McVay. Rams are McVay. Seattle, Shane Waldron's a McVay guys. That's interesting. It seems like a very obvious connection when you kind of think about where Mannion has played.
Yeah. I want to get your take on a couple other topics, and we're going to dive into the Senior Bowl recap. All right. First of all, today I was reading Mark Murphy. I think it's called was it Murphy with 5 or Murphy on 5, whatever it is, where they ask Murphy takes 5. Maybe that's it.
Okay.
They basically ask him 5 questions. So this one right here came in and it said, have you or Brian Gutekunst, these are from fans, by the way, asking Mark Murphy this. Have you or Brian Gutekunst ever considered writing an article about what went on the background leading up to the decision to draft Jordan Love? I would think that there were some interesting conversations going on and would suspect that not everyone involved were buying into it. I'm happy to see that all the naysayers are eating crow and singing your praises. How does it feel being a genius? Right.
Awesome.
So somebody stroking the ego there.
Wow.
Right. I think Mark might have actually wrote that one to himself. But.
Maybe he's doing the meme of Barack Obama giving himself the medal right here. That's what he's doing. I think you're right. I think he asked himself this question.
So his answer was, you're exactly right. I am a genius. No, he didn't say that. He said, I think this may have to wait until Brian retires, Mike. We don't want to give up any trade secrets. I do give Brian and his team tremendous credit for having the courage of his convictions in drafting Jordan Love. They did their research on Jordan and knew that he had excellent potential. Jordan's draft year was in the middle of COVID, so things were very different. I remember Brian letting me know that we were going to trade up to pick Jordan. I knew that we had him rated highly and was impressed with the process that Brian and his staff had followed. I know we were criticized for the pick at the time, but Brian felt strongly that it would be a good pick in the long term. There's no doubt about it, man. He absolutely crushed that pick. That would be a really cool kind of story to hear. You hear the whole Aaron Rodgers pick story. If you guys go watch the Legacy documentary, and we've shared that video on here, once, and just kind of hear how it sounded exactly the same. It's just wow, like time is this flat circle. So, back then it was Ted Thompson asking Bob Harlan, "Hey, can you step outside for a second?" Said, "Hey, this kid's falling, and if he falls to us, we're going to take him. Like he's that good, And how he said that, Bob Harlan was like, "Hey, look, it's your team. What you got to do." It sounds like such a similar situation, even so that Brian let him know, "Look, we're going to trade up and get this guy if he gets to this certain point." It's pretty wild. So,
all right, sounds good.
Yeah,
I would have loved to hear like all of the, just kind of like, because obviously you've seen it a little bit on YouTube. There are some like teams that are, posting stuff on YouTube of like inside the draft room and stuff like that. Like I know the Lions have done it the last couple of years. The Jets have done it. I know the Panthers did it when Rule was there. So, you get a bit of a mixed bag. But it would be really interesting to see what people had to say in that draft room. If there was anybody who was maybe like a little bit like backing Aaron in the sense of like, what are you thinking?
There had to be.
I just want to hear somebody thinking like, I would love to hear, just any sort of pushback, and not necessarily that it was incorrect, but just like the reasoning for the pushback on the pick, I think would have been, oh yeah, give me that document. I'll pay whatever you want. Just give me that. Give me inside the draft room 2020, please.
Gosh, it would be a while, because I've always heard, and I've never seen the video, but I have heard several people talk about how excited they were when they drafted Jordan. So evidently there is a video of both Matt LaFleur and Brian Gutekunst like really celebrating that they got Jordan Love, because some people immediately spun it like, oh boy, Aaron's going to be mad when they see that reaction, right?
Yeah.
But I've never seen the video. You haven't seen it either, have you, Jake?
I don't think so, no. I remember them like fist bumping for Josh Myers. That's the most recent one I can remember, which that's not the best. Not the best fist bump we like there, but I would love to see that one for Jordan.
God almighty. Imagine that resurfacing and getting.
Hey, can't be perfect, It is what it is.
No, bro, this last draft, man, and there'll be plenty of time to talk about it, I know, but as we get into some of this more information.
Yeah.
I mean, it was when it was over too, it wasn't like at the end of the draft, I was like, we'll wait and see. I was like, man, he navigated this board. The Jaden Reed one was the only one that I was like, I don't understand this one. Jalen Hyatt, and then lo and behold, Reed comes out and bang, it's like he crushed it. He absolutely crushed it.
I've rarely been as hyped over a Packers selection than I was when they took Tucker Kraft, and that was it. I was just like, this is two tight ends. You get a receiver in Reed. Maybe I'm not as high on him. I was a little bit higher on Wicks pre-draft than Reed, but like to get both of them, trading back with Reed nets you, I think, Brooks and Wicks were those two trades. Like just and then to do stuff the last couple of years in the 7th round. I mean, my goodness, we are just cooking. Goody's sitting there, everybody else is packing it in on a Saturday afternoon in late April. Goody's like, nah, man, we're gonna pick in the 7th round. I got some guys right here. We got this. It's incredible to just kind of see how well they've kind of navigated the last two, really.
Yeah, and the way I kind of work the draft too is like I don't want to say attached. That sounds like condescending. Like I don't get attached to these guys. I don't find myself going, I really like that guy, I really like that guy. I just put the data in, come up with the board, and when we get to the pick, I go, this seems like a great pick. And Van Ness was one that when we did our mocks, we did like 6 different mock drafts, compiled the information, and Van Ness got picked by us in our mocks more than anyone. So it was like that made sense at the time. The Luke Musgrave one, hands down, was like, that's our guy. Like the way he said, I think he was number 22 on the board when we took him. So it was just like, this makes a lot of sense. Tucker, I didn't see so much. I had him a little lower on the board, but man, just seeing him. I think it was Jason Wilde and Mark Tausch talking about him yesterday on Wilde and Tausch, talking about just how he's just completely turned it around. Like that second half of the season was like the first half of the season, he couldn't sift. He couldn't do anything. And maybe they were asking him to do too much. I don't know, but man, it just really clicked there in a second.
I think part of that, I know we're not, this wasn't the plan to dive into all this. I feel like it's just like jumping from South Dakota State to the NFL is a big jump. I think he probably would have benefited from jumping from South Dakota State to Alabama first, which was on the table for him, but he didn't. He stayed there. And so that's a big learning curve to go like, okay, I can block these guys, right? These guys, and not to, disparage the talent in the FCS, but it's just like it's different when you're lined up opposite an SEC defensive end every week versus in the FCS. But it just felt like you needed a little time, and it took Jordan a little time as well. And we're seeing results all over the place with these guys, which is great. Rasheed Walker as well, another one. Like second half, there was just so much clicking, which was great to see.
Yeah, and the year before Zach Tom, it's just like Goody's. He is knocking it. And he, 3 years ago, rough draft. I believe it was 3 years ago where you kind of look back at that draft and go, "Oh, it's a tough one." Yeah. The last two, pretty solid.
Last draft. Two is Gordon Ramsay level stuff, right? It's we're getting to fine dining here these last couple. It's really good stuff.
All right, one last thing from Murphy. This cracked me up. I got to drop the banner for this. I don't know if you've seen this or not, but I shared it on Twitter, and it got quite the ruckus going. We were cracking up. Justin M. from Tucson, Arizona says, I'm emailing today to express my disappointment and dissatisfaction with the franchise and its direction under your tenure as CEO, Mark Murphy. I believe it is long overdue for you to retire and give control of the organization to someone else who is more properly prepared to take the team into the future. Your leadership has been inept. You do not deserve to lead such a storied franchise. Please disappear into retirement ether. Nobody likes you. You have never been a good executive. I wish you the worst in your twilight years. Now, here's what's hilarious. Mark Murphy handpicked this email. Like, he could have just said, I'm just going to throw this. I ain't dealing with this, right? This is, he picked it, and this was his response. Thanks for sharing your opinion, Justin. I also appreciate the 11 other emails you've recently sent with similar suggestions. I get your point. You'll be pleased to know that I'm required to retire in July 2025 under our bylaws. That was it. Like, the fact that he threw in the 11 emails, poor Justin. Man. I don't know where he's at on Twitter. Probably not watching this right now. But if you've seen the tweet on Twitter, I understand why you're staying quiet, J Money, because you're getting roasted right now, my friend.
Goodness sakes, man.
I wish you nothing but the worst in your twilight years.
Like, my man's is. Did Aaron send that?
Mark
is that
sent
Aaron
to himself, and Aaron sent that one to Mark. I love it.
Is that what happened? Oh man,
cracked me up though, man.
Absolutely. A lot of high profile guys getting into this week's one. Oh, that's interesting.
No doubt
Mark himself and Aaron. Wow. That's
I'm telling you, man. I read that and I went like this. Did he really?
Yeah, especially the last couple sentences. It's like, all right, like I get it. You're upset with how things maybe haven't run, but man,
how would you describe those things?
Go live life, man. Like seriously,
touch grass.
Yeah, touch grass. Get outdoors. Like
it's just wild because like what he's done with Titletown has been phenomenal. The organization itself. I mean, when you look at it, you took 1 year to clear a lot of dead cap. You're kind of coming out of the back end. You got the youngest team in the league. You just got a playoff win, which no one expected that. You've got your quarterback of the future. It's like, how in the world you write that email? Man, that's mind-boggling to me, no doubt. But anyway, let's talk about the future, potential future.
All right.
So you spent pretty much the last, 3 days down there in Mobile, watching the practices. Obviously, we watched the game today. You mentioned, a little bit uneventful, but nonetheless, still information to gather. What I'd like to do tonight, if it's all right with you, is just position by position, Jake. We'll start with the quarterback position, just to kind of say, okay. And if the answer is no, nobody there, it's totally cool. But I want to know kind of what are your notes as far as, what was done at the quarterback position as far as the Senior Bowl? Like, what did you come away with, I guess? Any kind of information there?
The quarterback position, it's tough because, the quarterbacks, they're working with, new coaches, new O-line, a new center, new receivers all week long. So it's not exactly like the easiest environment to step into. It felt like the coaching staff in general on both sides, I don't know if they were telling the QBs this and not like in 7s or 11s to kind of just, be very risk averse, but it kind of felt like everybody was playing to not throw interceptions. I would have loved to see it because I think, especially with Michael Penix, right, who's there at 37 on the board. To me, like from what everyone said, like this is a smart guy. He knows coverages. He knows where to go with the football. He's super smart in in interviews. So to me, listen, Penix, just go out there like it's Rodgers or Mahomes in training camp, sling the football, try some stuff, layer some throws, right? There's nothing to me like 3 days, and people are going to overreact to 3 days of practice. I've done it before. It happens, right? It's fun. It's football. But like 3 days of practice, where you're kind of trying stuff, where you're, attacking some windows, to me isn't gonna absolutely sink your draft stock relative to what you've already put on film this year, right? Especially the Texas game where he was just everything looked slow down for him. So to me, that happened with Penix, with Nix. Rattler tucked it a lot. Milton was hesitant to throw all week. It was not a great week at the quarterback position. It was, I think, pretty underwhelming to kind of the expectation. I think last year there was a lot of like, wow, there's really not many people here. Like the best quarterback might be Tyson Bagent, who ends up, in Chicago. Like that's what we had to work with. But this week it felt like, okay, there's some guys with arm talent. There's some guys who can really elevate themselves this week. We just didn't see it a whole lot. I think Rattler probably had the best week. He had, he was Senior Bowl game MVP, right? A nice throw to Rosemary Jack Saint for the score early in the game. It felt like he had the best command of what was going on, at least, on the field, and just, good zip on the football, pretty good touch overall. And he kind of, by the end of the week, had that kind of gamer mentality, which was good. I do want to highlight Michael Pratt because someone shared this and I got to figure out where the heck it is. But there was a tweet. I think Maddie Hudak I'm pretty sure who shared it, because she's been, working with a lot of either, college, on the LSU side of things, or New Orleans with the Saints, but is in Tulane now, working, for that football team. And she was like kind of like observing how Pratt was going, up to receivers after every play and just talking about like, okay, what do you kind of like here when you're running this route? Where do you like the ball? And just kind of like encouragement and just kind of discussing a lot with them all week long. People like me probably not paying attention to that as much, right? We're kind of trying to look at this rep. What's going on with this rep? Like, they're fast and furious through these things. But I thought it was interesting that Pratt, it seemed like, was just, communicating with a lot of guys out there, whether it be the receivers, tight ends, running backs. Him and Milton had a handshake, by midweek, which was cool. But like, it seemed like Pratt was kind of the one guy that kind of went in there like, okay, this is a big time kind of job interview, first step in the process. I'm going to, be a sponge, but also, be a communicative guy and a leader out there. And I thought that was really kind of something that kind of opens the eyes a little bit as to like, okay, these QBs, they're, and all these guys are coming in here trying to, just do their absolute best every week and gain every edge they can.
Got it. Yeah, good stuff. So as we look at the board here, just an early projection of the quarterback, and we'll move on to running back here. According to the consensus big board, the Bears taking Caleb Williams with number 1, Drake May going to the Washington Commanders at number 2, Jaden Daniels going number 3 to the New England Patriots, and then it kind of dips. It's kind of odd. The consensus big board has J.J. McCarthy in the 28th spot and Bo Nix in the 33rd spot. However, their projections have Bo Nix going number 12 to the Broncos, and they have J.J. McCarthy going number 26 to the to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers out of Michigan. Yeah. Then you got Michael Penix Jr., who you just mentioned, that was down at the Senior Bowl as well, going number 43 to Atlanta. They have Michael Pratt going number 52 to the LA Rams. So going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Yep. The more quarterbacks go before pick 25, the better, right, Jake? That's what we're looking for. We want all the quarterbacks. Get them off the board.
Take 7.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Take 7 of them, please.
Exactly. All right, let's move on to running back then. I know there was a lot of running back talk this weekend or this week leading up to the Senior Bowl. Let's kind of dive into the running back position as far as what did you see down there at the Senior Bowl? Obviously Blake Corum wasn't there. Trey Benson wasn't there. Jonathan Brooks still rehabbing the ACL. My boy Audric Estime wasn't there. Some of the top backs obviously not there. We got to go all the way down to the first 4, I guess you could say. You got Marshawn Lloyd from USC, sweet baby Ray Davis, my man from Kentucky. Yep. You had Jalen Wright from Tennessee, and then you had Jaher, I think is how you say it, Jaher, Jordan from Louisville. What stood out to you about the running backs down there in Mobile?
Well, yeah, so actually Wright and Jordan didn't show up. Jordan didn't practice. all week. So
yeah,
it got pretty thin. No, but the top two really did show out. And you're gonna love what I have to say after I talk about Lloyd, I'm sure. But Marshawn Lloyd looks like a different mover out there. He's pretty well built. I'm gonna bring. I got the measurements up here, so I want to make sure I get this right.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had them all memorized perfectly, but yeah. Okay, so Marshawn Lloyd 5'9" and 1/8, 217. Well built dude for being 5'9". Yeah. So
that's a bowling ball there.
Yeah, and he was explosive all week. You know, he can rip off big runs. But I think what was really exciting about him is seeing that agility show up, because I think a lot of times at USC, you know, it was kind of a lot of gap run, and he's off to the races. He's got a hole, he hits it, and we're out of there. Just see some vision when they're running some zone stuff instead was really good. And then he gets to the backside of the play. He's got to handle the kind of unblocked end man, and he's making a miss. He shook a couple guys out of their shoes when they were running 11s. I think really talented, really explosive, really quick. He's probably, to me, like that's a guy who can outplay draft position come draft time, because I do think you mentioned it. He's kind of got the bowling ball build, but he's also got plenty of explosiveness as well. I think a little more than Corum, which is pretty close to what Corum's at. I think Corum's more like just under 5'8" and like 217, 219. So they're pretty similar, but I do think Lloyd's got plenty more explosiveness in his game. So it's really nice.
The main event here, Jake.
The main event. Okay, hold on. Okay. But Ray Davis, like it's really fun to see how quick he is for being as big as well built as he is too. And I think that's kind of the theme here with both of these backs. I want to get the numbers. Yeah, 5'8" and a half, 220. Like you can tell, like, so some of the you can tell like who's the running back in the huddle very often, because they're 5'8", 5'9", right? And they're standing next to guys who are 6'7" all week, right?
Right.
So that's, okay, that's the running back. But man, Davis as a receiver this week, he first day of practice, he goes up, it's in tight coverage with a linebacker, elevates for the football, gets both feet in, and coaches are loving it. The next day comes out, runs a seam route on a linebacker, beats him obviously with more. He's got more speed than him, and then one-handed, just making the splash plays, but then also, looking really disciplined when they're running the football, when they're playing 11, right? You obviously aren't tackling guys, you aren't hitting that much, but the vision's really, really good. And Clayton, I'm sure you've seen it all year back in the fall, right? He can make people miss, and that's a big deal. You have to have an answer when it's like 1v1. I think that's something that should be taken into account a lot at the running back position. Those two did that really well. I do think two other guys really quick.
Mm-hmm.
Rasheen Ali from Marshall. I don't know how far down he is. There he is, 177. Mm-hmm. He got hurt the first day, but he moves different. He moves different. Really? He is they gave him a run on like outside zone, and he's and it just looked like he was gliding to the corner. Gave the corner a little hesitation move and then gone again. And like with that kind of straight line speed, that is impressive. He has battled a lot of injury recently, so that's not great to see that he goes down again, but you can tell like this guy moves different in a straight line. So that was exciting. And then I think Dylan Lobb from New Hampshire, just a few spots above there. He kind of does everything, a little bit of everything. He looked really good as a route runner. He made some tough catches and contested spots as a running back. You don't see that very often. And he's battling out there. He's built pretty well for the running back position. I'll get his really quick if they have them. Not to take up too much time. I'm gonna make sure we're ready. Time. Okay, 5'9" and 5'8", 210. So a little smaller than the other guys, but he's playing in New Hampshire. He looks pretty good too, and he's wearing 40. I'm wondering if he was wearing 40 for all stock, because that's kind of like the shorter, stockier build out there, but dude just can make some plays. So that was cool. That it wasn't like the most star-studded group, but I think those four really, really stood out, and especially Lloyd and Davis really day after day in practice.
Got it. Good stuff. Yeah. The thing that I noticed about Ray Davis this year, and the only reason I know this guy is because I'm a Kentucky fan and watching a large majority of their snaps. When he made guys miss, he could do it in tight windows too. It was like he could do it, I don't want to say within the tackles, but that mid-level, two defenders around him. He's very shifty for his size. And some of it has to do with the talent you played against, obviously. But if you're going, I'd like to check out Ray Davis, go watch the Florida game. My God. I'll never forget. I was sitting at Beef O'Brady's, little Irish pub here in town. It's no hole in the wall. It's not a gym or anything. They're nationwide, but we're sitting there, and a Florida fan comes in and sits down, and I'm thinking he better not get mouthy. I'm immediately eyeing him like he better not get mouthy. Right? He had a. And listen, we're in Johnson City, Tennessee. That's where Steve Spurrier is from. Steve Spurrier despised Tennessee and went to Florida. Okay, so keep that in mind. He's wearing a Steve Spurrier Florida throwback jersey when Spurrier won the Heisman, sitting next to us in this sports bar in Tennessee. And I'm a Kentucky fan. I'm incognito. I have no Kentucky colors on at all, right? And I'm telling you, he was miserable the entire day. It was about midway through the third quarter. He threw his glass down on the table and said, "Who the hell is this Ray Davis?" I was rolling, man, because he was going. That's where we get the Sweet Baby Ray from. I can't remember who called it. It might have been our boy Gus Johnson. It might have been, but whoever it was.
Okay.
Sweet Baby Ray Davis. I'll never forget it, man. One of my top moments of the college football season. So anyway, you guys get a chance tonight. You want something to fall asleep to? Go on YouTube and find Kentucky versus Florida 2023 and watch Sweet Baby Ray take over. It was a lot of fun. So, all right, wide receiver. First of all, when you mention those running backs, though, I do want to say we're probably taking a running back, right, Jake? Am I wrong there? We're probably going to at least draft one, don't you think?
I would imagine so. I'd be very surprised if they don't leave with one or maybe even two when all's said and done. So
I agree. So wide receiver, as we comb down here, let's look for the Reese symbol. Looks like the first one might have the coolest name in college football. Ladd McConkey, a fellow Irishman here. Out of Georgia. He's the first one that comes in the number 39 spot. He's projected to go 31 to Kansas City. That just seems like a Kansas City pick, to be honest with you. And then you got Xavier. I hope I'm saying it right. Is it Leggett or is it Leggett?
I think it's I don't know if it's Leggett or Leggett. It's one of the two.
Gotcha.
I'll have to go find
and then, of course, you got Devontae Walker, but I'm sure you got a couple gems below these guys. So wide receiver, what stood out to you down there in Mobile?
We can start with Ladd McConkey, who I think there was plenty of expectation coming in that, great route runner, is pretty much just going to cook guys for most of the week. And he definitely did that. I think you saw just how impressive it was for him to gain ground with some release, press vertically into the stem and just be able to snap stuff off really quick to get guys on their heels initially with that, like kind of 2-3 vertical steps. And he's winning out in in breakers, no problem. Physicality gave him a little bit of trouble on day 2, but he kind of got back to work, and you saw a little bit more improvement by day 3. I want to get the numbers for him. Yeah, so 5'11 and a half, 187. So he's a little bit smaller. Okay. So not the biggest guy out there, but he's definitely somebody who, has been able to win on the perimeter, win in the slot. But physicality, I think, was the one question mark. He didn't really answer it, but we kind of knew, like, receiver v corner, receivers have an advantage. They've got basically a 3-way go. They can go whatever direction they want to win. So he kind of cleaned up nicely and did what he needed to do down there for the most part. Blake B already mentioned it. Roman Wilson season, but we'll get to 75 on the list first, I think, just because he's there first. Okay. Yeah, Ricky Pearsall, like him and Roman Wilson both, they needed only 2 days of practice. They're out of there. It was that easy for them. Roman Wilson was really the only guy who could consistently get Quinyon Mitchell on his heels.
Really?
That was about it. Yeah, he got him on, I think, one the first day, and then on the last rep of day 2, kind of beat him. He slipped a little bit, and then Roman Wilson made a one-handed catch. It was very awesome. It was very cool to see live. So yeah, Wilson was cooking everybody else. The speed is real with him. I know that. We kind of think of Roman Wilson as just like the quintessential slot receiver, and he kind of is that. He's 186. He's not the biggest dude, like 5'10" and change. But the vertical speed that he brought out and was able to use to his advantage all week to get open was impressive. It kind of makes you wonder why, they weren't throwing him the ball more. That might be a JJ McCarthy issue, just saying. Not starting things, but like, he caught a lot of touchdowns this year, but like it feels like he should have been more involved in a passing game that just sometimes, I don't know, disappeared for some reason. But Roman Wilson was excellent. Pearsall looked so fluid, and Pearsall's bigger. He's 6 foot. He's 193, right? Like he's got decent size to his game, and he just looked the part as a route runner as well. Those three just dominated as route runners all week long, and it was fun to watch. And Pearsall and Wilson had, better answers for press, for more physicality than McConkey did. So that's, I think, as well notable in the 1G ones.
Big boy Johnny Wilson, do you think he improved his stock or just kind of set the same or maybe hurt it? How did you feel about Johnny? He looked a little stiff to me. I ain't going to lie.
Yeah, he did look a little stiff. He also didn't catch the football particularly well, which you're 6'6". Yeah, it is not. You're 6'6", 237. You got a catch radius the size of a Buick, man. We need to be able to reel stuff in. Okay? Like we just got to be able to reel everything in that's thrown our way, and that did not happen this week, and that's a little concerning. Yeah, I don't think he hurt it too much because he kind of bounced back a little bit, but I don't think there was anything that was really needle moving from the week. He's still a guy who did really well. If you look at PFF stuff and yards per route run against man coverage, he did pretty well in that regard just because he's bigger, right? And, they got him running some crossers where he can win with some stride length. But, yeah, not the best from him. I do think McConkey, Pearsall, and Wilson were really the guys to watch for. And I don't know how far down he is. Jamari Thrash from Louisville is really, really twitched up. There he is. There.
104, yeah.
Yeah, of course. Why did I think it was going to be a far scroll, right? There's so many dang receivers in this class that are talented. That's just how it goes. Looking for Thrash's numbers really quick. Where are you? He's on the smaller side as well, so I don't know if Packer fans need to get super acquainted with him. Yeah, 5'11", 185. Probably not. I know Reed was like 187 to 190. But that was the big, we're going to reach out of our comfort zone here for this player. But Thrash looked nice. He's not as well built as like a Pearsall or Wilson. So, the physicality might give him trouble, but he's really twitched up. And when he's given, a little bit of space to operate, he can get open at will. So
got it. I'll tell you, when I turned on that tape for Boston College versus Florida State last year, you knew right where Johnny Wilson was the entire time. It was amazing. And there was one time they came out in a 2x2 set, and they motioned, I think, what was the X, or no, it would have been the X. No, yeah, the X. They motioned the X in and put him in the backfield, so it was just Johnny Wilson. And you see the safety, you could tell the call, and what Hafley had set up was, okay, in 2x2s, the boundary, we want to make sure we're playing 5 to 7 off. As soon as he motioned, the X motioned out, and it was just Johnny Wilson sitting there, you seen them adjust, and the safety came up to play bump and run, and it looked like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, bro. It looked like one of the, what were they called? The
Oompa Loompas.
It looked like an Oompa Loompa trying to cover Andre the Giant. It was hilarious, and they had him play press, and you could tell his plan was real simple, Jake. It was, I'm gonna just slap him with my left hand, and I'm running, trying to get some kind of leverage. Sure enough, back shoulder throw, Johnny Wilson about 23 yards. So
yeah,
like stealing candy from a baby. But
yeah.
Anyway,
what can you do?
Yeah, I'm going to skip over tight end. If you've got someone you want to mention, feel free to do so. But obviously, offensive line is a big kind of thing for the Packers this year. You okay with us skipping tight enders or anything?
Yeah, that's fine. I think everybody probably did, like Theo Johnson from Penn State probably had the best week, all around player. Ben Sinnott, though, from Kansas State would be fun in DeGuara's role, just saying.
There you go.
But, that'd be fun.
Now I've got to go back. I'm sorry.
13 personnel, just saying.
We got to. Who was it again?
Ben Sinnott from Kansas State. He's there at 126. So the big question, really quick, I'll try to keep this like 30 seconds. The big question with him was size, because, they lined him up as an H-back. They lined him up at tight end. He runs good routes, catch the football. He had a few drops this week, but you don't see that a lot on film. So that little less concerning, but he comes in at 6'4", 254. That's a big deal because he was in low. Everybody thought low 240s, and that felt like, oh, that's an H-back, a receiving tight end only. No, comes in at 254, and he blocks his butt off on film. Very, very notable right there, because teams are now going to say, okay, now we can stick this guy in line. We can also have him at the H-back spot. We could maybe treat this as a diet Kyle Juszczyk situation here potentially with a player like Ben Sinnott. So.
Got it.
Just had to get that note in there for him.
Yeah, he's sitting at 126, but keep in mind he peaked at 99. So if he did look good at the Senior Bowl, you might see him climb a little closer to 99 rather than the 126. So definitely something to keep an eye on. Let's go into offensive tackle. And Jake, if you have to hop off here, you just say, Clayton, I'm out of time, and we'll end it. Okay,
we're good.
All right,
we're deal.
Good. First one on the list here at offensive tackle that is showing the Reese's sign for here is Fuaga, offensive tackle out of Oregon State. They've got him projected to go number 14 to the Saints. So according to that, he wouldn't be available, although we could still talk about him. Another one is, was it Fontana?
He didn't. Yeah, Fontana did not end up sticking around for Senior Bowl week. There were on Monday they released a list of guys who, don't end up showing up. Unfortunately, he was one of them. It would have been nice to see him though.
Gotcha. So, and that's probably more one of those things that, hey, we feel good about the work we've got on tape, right? Let's just go ahead and head into the draft, or no.
I think what that signals to me is he's in round 1 of DJ's mocks and Brugler's mocks. We're good. We're fine.
We're okay.
We're fine.
It's kind of like Drew Rosenhaus last year with Jalen Carter. Like, I'm not taking any calls outside of 10. Sorry.
Yeah. There you go.
So, all right, cool. Well, you can just I can scroll up and down. Tell me what you think about the offensive tackles that showed up. Do you have any that come to mind? Like, hey, this guy really showed up here in the 3 days of practice.
Tyler Guyton, I think, was a little bit of a mixed bag because I think there is so much to like with the profile. The question really with him is kind of, with the hand usage right now. It feels like everything else athleticism wise with Guyton is super good. Like you'll see him, jump set. He'll get to the landmark as a pass protector in an instant. And he's basically cut guys off from getting to they get to half man, right? Where they're just trying to attack one half of you to turn the corner. Guyton pretty much erases any bit of that immediately when he sets. That's really good news. The problem is we need to get those hands in tight. He likes to do the thing where people kind of try to bear hug you and want him to yeah, exactly. And you want him to just get a punch out there early, get a strike out there early, get in tight and be able to just extend, because I think he's got enough size and you can see it on film where he is just like, yeah, no, you're just not going to get past me. I'm way bigger than you, man. What are you trying to do here? Like, so he has all of that, but there are going to be guys in the NFL who are going to give you trouble if you're not technically sound with your hands. Now, NFL teams are going to be like, okay, we can fix that. That's not a problem. We can't teach you to be as big as you are and as fast as you are, right? 6'7" and an A, 328. And he moves so well. He's a great zone blocker too.
6'7", 328.
Yeah.
Jeez, Pete, man.
34 and a quarter inch arms. So plenty of length at the position, right? Wingspan's 82 inches. So he's built for this, right? So he just has to, as long as the hands are good, right? Teams are going to be like, all right, we can work with this. We'll be fine here. Just get the hands right. And he's going to be, I think, a really strong player. He's probably going in the first. He wasn't at practice Thursday, which to me, for all the hype that he had and where he's at on this consensus board, to me says, yeah, he's going round 1 because his testing should be good as well.
And they got him projected to go to San Fran at 32. So there you go. Anybody else as far as offensive tackle you'd like to hit on?
Tackle? Yeah, I mean, I think there were just a lot of mixed bags. Jordan Morgan from Arizona kind of looked like maybe the kick into guard. It might be might be where we need to go. Kingsley Suamataia from BYU is still intriguing to me because he's 20, I believe, or 21 by draft time.
Oh, wow.
He's a really young player, played a lot of right tackle. I think there were plenty of reps where it looked like, okay, I'm going to lose slowly. I'm going to get, knees bent, the balance really well, but there were kind of times where it just felt like he wasn't up to speed technically with some of the guys. So I think it's another guy with a lot of potential there that could really, by, year 3 when he's 23 years old, right, just kind of be like, all right, now it's my time to jump onto the scene. Only because he's there. Patrick Paul concerns me after this week because, man, I'm going to bring up the numbers really fast, but man, we got to talk about this. My guy, you are 6'7", 333, and you have 36 and a quarter inch arms. 36 and a quarter inch arms, my guy. Okay. Problem when he's setting, we're not shooting. We're not using the length to our advantage at all.
You just let him come to you.
He's like, yep, come get me. And then what's worse is, right, when he gets to the set point and he's ready for contact, you see his arms drop like this, and we're wrapping every time. And he's just losing rep after rep after rep. And I'm like, man, we got to, brother, you have the longest arms here. Please use them. Please. Right. One time, get some extension. Get a strike out there that's going to take a guy 9 yards before he can get around you again. Like that. It's just, he can do it. And it's just, it is so frustrating to see a guy with that kind of length at the tackle position that just did not use it at all. You can just see it. Like here, Clayton, I'll send you some links to go watch the 1v1s. It is, it's just, I can't believe how high he gets at the hands, how upright he plays.
Yeah.
It's not great. It's not great. He did not help himself.
And he's projected to go
tear these guys down, but it's just, I feel like we have a chance here with Paul. It's just use that length, my guy. We can do this. I promise we can do this.
We like to keep things positive on this pod, but we've also got a saying that if you see it, you got to say it. Like, what are we doing if we're not mentioning that stuff?
And I was really excited because I thought Paul was going to, he was listed at like 315. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, well, with that size, that height, he's like a Packer pick. He came in at 333, which isn't super exciting because Green Bay usually stays in that 310 to 320 area, but to not use your length like that.
Got it.
Not ideal.
All right. Let's move on to interior offensive line. This to me is more in that vein for the Packers faithful, I believe. We're all kind of looking at, okay, what are we going to do with right guard? Are we just going to move forward with Sean Ryan? Is Josh Myers going to be the guy? I'm of the opinion I think they're probably going to stick with him this year, although you get the right situation fall into place, you have a camp battle, you never know what's going to happen. But as you see right here at the top of the list, we can't ignore it. Graham Barton, interior offensive lineman for Duke. He's projected to go number 25 to the Green Bay Packers. Would you be okay with that pick? And then just go ahead and dive into all the other interior offensive linemen.
So, yeah, this is another one of those unfortunate lists here that we got going on because Barton did not show up. Frazier was hurt, right? He broke his leg at the end of the season. Now he's running. He's doing a lot of stuff in the rehab room, which is awesome. He was down there, I believe. So that's good. He got to meet with people, but BB didn't show up. Van Pran didn't show up, which is kind of shocking to me. So we're kind of like, oh, throw these guys out.
No information, right?
But it's tough, right? That's the tough part about this because I know I recorded, the pod for Monday and the preview, and there were just guys that obviously you don't see, coming across the wire late that weren't going to be there. But as far as your question for Barton, I mean, he's played left tackle, right, for Duke. I think the lack of length with him shows up a little bit. You see guys like from Clemson getting to a long arm, and he can't reach out to recover. But I think he plays great balance, great quicks. I think the athleticism and the fit as a zone blocker is going to be there. And I think in pass protection as a guard, or a center, he's going to be really, really strong. He played center as a freshman at Duke. So he has played left tackle and center. He hasn't played guard, but I know a lot of people are pushing him in that direction. I think he's going to have to play guard or center, but having that flexibility and maybe playing tackle in a pinch for Green Bay. I don't think he will, but I wouldn't be mad at it just because he might be like one of the best players left on the board when Green Bay's picking.
Yeah, it seems like when we've done our mocks too, at least in the early stages, he's almost always there, right? So, yeah, and it kind of fits the bill too, right? Where we talk about your Zach Tom types that can play all over the line.
Yeah,
you get someone like Graham Barton that, like you said, in a pinch could play tackle. He might be able to unseat Josh Myers as a center, and then also could play right guard. I can see how it makes sense. He peaked at 20. He's sitting at 29 right now. Yeah. But anybody else interior offensive line wise, 20.
Yeah, Drew D put this in the chat that was really good. He says, "But guys get their hands. He can recover," and there's definitely instances of him doing that. And I think, when you look at playing that position, doing that at guard or center, I like that a ton. Obviously, Jackson Powers Johnson was way up there. I could almost guarantee that we're going to see his name jump up even higher. I think he's at like 35. Yeah, we're going up. My guy looks like a veteran out there playing guard and center. It's absurd.
So at 25, would you be okay with going Jackson Powers Johnson over Graham Barton? Would you be okay with that if they did that? Or is that a little bit of a stretch?
I think I'll have Powers Johnson higher, but like Barton's potential to play all five, I know I've mentioned the length being an issue. But I mean, if he's technically strong enough to like play tackle in a pinch, I think that's where his value goes up a little bit higher over a Powers Johnson. Now, Powers Johnson's dominant. If I were the Steelers at 20, it wouldn't even be a question about picking him. Miami, they need a ton of help, right? Like,
yeah, especially with Connor out, right, with the ACL, and he's set to hit free agency too. So
yeah, it'll be hard to, you'd be hard pressed to tell me. I don't know if I could agree with the saying like Powers Johnson is not going round one. I feel like it's not locked completely, but I would say like 80-85%. We got to talk about Christian Haynes from UConn really quick.
All right, let's hear it.
Got to talk about Christian Haynes. So
look at his projection, first of all.
Yeah.
Number 58 to Green Bay. Go ahead.
That's what we're talking about right there. We like that. He is as good a zone blocker at guard as I've seen in a while. Like, just ready-made, like, I'm good for zone. Like, him and Guyton were lined up a lot at right guard, right tackle. They're just crushing guys. You know, Haynes is scooping guys. He's getting around them, right? Guyton's doing the same thing. If they got a double team going on, Haynes is to the second level and like in a snap of your fingers. So I think what the question is can Haynes handle top competition? Right? He played at UConn, so he got some games against, you know, ACC teams, but, you know, getting a bigger sample size was big. First day, struggled a little bit, gave up some ground in the 1v1. Second day, guys are like, all right, buddy, just shoot the hands initially, because you can quick set really well, you can recover, you have great balance, you have great knee bend, and you have great footwork to kind of mirror anybody trying to get around you. Once he shoots the hands and they're really, really, really in tight around the armpits, man, just win, and just kept winning the rest of the week. Like, guys ready-made. And a right guard. He played right guard his whole career.
Gotcha. So he's sitting at 91.
Sharpie, baby.
Yeah, he's sitting at 91 currently. He peaked at 61, but the projection is number 58 to Green Bay. So you'll probably see him climb up the consensus big board, I would imagine.
I think so.
Seeing that he looked good down there. So
yep.
Good stuff there, man. I'll tell you, I think you're probably going to take at least 2 swings at interior offensive line in this draft. You know, obviously Goody will wait a little later to do it. I'd be really surprised if he goes Graham Barton that early, just because it doesn't feel like Goody does that. Yeah. You know, I think what's the earliest we've taken? Probably Elton Jenkins, right? Am I thinking right?
Yeah, that was at like, what was that at? 40,
second round,
44, 45, something like that. Yep. So, yeah. If they don't believe Barton can play tackle at all, it just doesn't feel like they're going to go that direction.
Gotcha.
It would feel like they would, if you truly believe Barton was a all 5 positions player, yeah, then teams are going to be all in. But if some teams are kind of like, just kind of hesitant to play him at tackle, that's where you'll probably see him maybe fall to day 2. But he's a good player. He's a really good player. There's no doubt.
Good stuff. Let's move on to defensive line. Obviously, you know, it depends on who you talk to. Now it's okay. Are we gonna switch to a 4-3 as the base? I think some people are completely sold on that. I'm not 100% sold on it. Although if I had to put money on it, I would say we probably will go to a 4-3 base as opposed to staying with that 34 jam front. So if that's the case, you know, I pointed out on Twitter earlier, having a conversation with another fan, a fellow fan, and it's like, okay, they said, I'd like to see Carl Brooks out there playing more snaps. And I'm going, okay, I like Carl Brooks too, but if you're going away from a 34 jam, then really you're going to see all of these defensive linemen kind of get a few, some fewer snaps, if you will. Now, we don't know if the rotational aspect of how they play, especially with the edge position, which now we all know Carl Brooks played college edge at 300 pounds. So there's a chance you could do that in the 4-3, obviously, especially on running downs. A lot of things come into play here. So I don't know how active they'll be after a defensive lineman. You got Kenny Clark, who's making a lot of money against the cap. Obviously, you got Devontae Wyatt, you invested a first-round pick in. You got Carl Brooks, who I think is just coming on as an absolute stud. I think he's better than Wyatt. That's just me personally. So when you kind of look at the depth of the defensive line, TJ Slayton, obviously your traditional type nose tackle, more of a 34 nose tackle, although he could anchor a 4-3, just might not have the quickness you want in penetration there. But what stood out to you about defensive line, and did you see anybody that you go, that right there might be a Packer pick? Anything stand out to you?
I don't know if there's a Packer on the list. There might be. I don't know if he's shoot. Can you scroll down? I don't know if he's listed in here or not. He might be listed as an edge. I'm not seeing him yet. Oh no, okay, he is there. Okay. Cool. So we might have to talk about him earlier because he's Darius Robinson might be the 4-3 end that we're looking for here, folks.
Nice.
6'5", 286, 34 3/4 inch arms. He was 5-tech, 3-tech, pushing dudes back, explosion to power in spades, but he also lands a vicious strike with 2 hands to just drive people backwards. And he was doing it all week. He had a great club arm over move that was really quick and violent with the strike. It was all over the place. He's going to skyrocket. This projection at 64 to San Francisco. Goodbye. I heard somebody comp him to somebody that people might be outraged to even mention the name on here, but like that people already are buzzing about this guy all week. There's some NFL guys that kind of walk the bleachers and whatnot. So you kind of tilt your ear and you go, and people are like, man, this Missouri kid, everybody's going to want him by the end of the week, is what I heard someone say. I'm like, it's just, that's how he played all week. And he is at 286, feels like a 4.3 end. He would be
that quick, huh?
Oh yes. And then when you have that kind of length and you use it and you strike well, goodness sakes. I mean, if that number doesn't have a 3 on it by April, I'll be shocked.
Oh wow!
I will be shocked.
You're talking about potentially climbing up 60
Yeah.
spots. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think that number might be a 3.
And that, my friends, is why the Senior Bowl week matters, right there.
Yeah.
He's projected to go 64. He's sitting at 99. He peaked at 85. So my man did himself some favors. Sounds like. Go ahead, Jake.
Yeah. No, he definitely did. I think McKinley Jackson right above him is somebody Packers fans have looked at because I believe he's in the 320 range. He was listed there at least. Let me get the number. Where are you? 6'1" and 5'8", 331.
Ooh,
that's pretty close. That's pretty close to where Slayton was when Green Bay drafted him.
Yeah.
And he was pretty disruptive. He plays really, really low at the point of attack. He was like stack shedding guys in some run game drills. If they decide that they're like, okay, in this 4-3, we need more of a nose tackle, one tech type that can, take on a lot. That might be Jackson. As long as he continues to play low enough, like he has put on enough weight to potentially be that guy. Obviously, everybody loved Tavondre Sweat this week. My guy Bo Limmer from Arkansas took the full weight of one of his rushes this week. And,
it looked bad. Did you see the one where he went Bambi legs? Like he collapsed him, but his knees touched, his ankles went out, and it was just like, that is a whole lot of grown man he's trying to handle.
When Sweat can play low and strike well, like it's over. It's over. He didn't weigh in, which to me is probably saying he's above 360. So
and what's his height again?
6. I think he's 6'4".
6'4", 360. Jeez.
Yeah. So we might be looking, and then one of the guys that I talked to down there a lot, and in the draft world, they're like, they asked him like, what playing weight, what's the deal with that? And he goes, I'll tell you this, I'm not going to be fined for missing, any practice or anything like that coming in being overweight. That will not happen. He seems clearly motivated to get the bag every week. So he may be able to get, down to a 340, right? If he needs to be like this. If Green Bay wanted to do it, sweet. Like this would be incredible. But I don't know if Green Bay is going to want a guy that big at the position. But like, goodness sakes, we're looking at like we're pushing into like just territory that many guys don't go, right? With your Vita Veas, right? Like
we're getting into old school Dusty Rhodes territory.
He was really fun to watch this week. He was really fun to watch.
That's awesome, man. Anybody else in defensive line you want to hit on? I'm gonna try to go quicker here.
Yeah, we can get rolling. We can. I don't know if we need to go to edge. I guess we could. I don't know how Green Bay feels.
Quick glance here. I'm with you. I don't think we have a whole lot there, but as far as need, but just a quick glance here. See what
I know Latu obviously looked really good. Adisa Isaac is maybe the one guy down there at 100 for Penn State. Actually, there might be two, but we'll try to keep it to just Isaac. But Isaac, I think, is extremely, extremely explosive. Right? He is coming along the long line of Penn State guys are just insanely good athletes, and that's just how it goes. Like he's 6'4", 250, a hair under 34-inch arms, but he was like the one guy I think that gave Fuaga trouble down there. He was the one guy who could threaten the outside track a little bit more, and it was like, Fuaga's got to get his feet set. He's got to get out there, and land a strike, or otherwise Isaac's going to beat him around the edge. So is Isaac big enough for Green Bay, especially if they're moving to a 4-3? No. At 250, I doubt it. But if for some reason they stick in the 3-4, the athleticism is going to be where Goody is kind of salivating a little bit.
Gotcha. So you think his RAS will be pretty good?
Yes, I I do think it will be it'll probably start with a 9 for sure.
Got it.
I can't imagine it would otherwise. But Marshawn Nealon, really quick from Western Michigan, 6'3", 268, flashed a little bit down there. He's more in that closer to you could play 4-3 D end.
Okay, gotcha.
So
good stuff there. Let me put him down too. So possibly 4-3 and M. Nealon. Yep. Good stuff, man. All right, let's roll through here to a position that I'm kind of excited to see what the Packers do with is linebacker. Whether it's free agency, whether Devondre's back or not, it just kind of feels like. I hope it's not the case, but it kind of feels like Devondre's better years are behind him. But right here at the top of the list is my guy that you guys have seen. I've mocked a couple of times, taking Jeremiah Trotter Jr. Just because, some of the PFF stuff, he really stands out to me over the last couple of years. But at linebacker, look at the Eagles here too. Absolutely hilarious, right? They're projected 53. There you go. Just double dip on the linebackers. And of course, they didn't take my guy, Jeremiah Trotter Jr. But
they kind of need to. They kind of need to, man. That linebacker play was atrocious.
No doubt. There was people earlier today talking about Patrick Queen in free agency. So I said, you know what? Let's just test the waters here. So I put his projected contract of $18.5 million per year and said, hey guys, as Packer fans, would you be interested in signing him for this? It was, what in the heck is going on? No, absolutely not.
No.
I think there's a good chance you could go get a linebacker. Now listen, you got Quay, you got Devondre Campbell, you got Isaiah McDuffie, right? So you're probably looking for one more. I think if the board falls right here, man, maybe I'm crazy, but if the board falls right, you might be able to take Devondre's replacement here in this draft, and Isaiah McDuffie being reunited with his former college coach there and Jeff Hafley. So I don't know, man. I just feel like that linebacker room needs to be bolstered a little bit. If Dre may come out and return to old Dre, right? But going on 31 years old, or if he isn't already 31. I'm trying not to set unrealistic expectations. You know what I mean, Jake? So when it comes to linebacker, what did you think as far as Senior Bowl and maybe what the Packers may or may not do?
I know a lot of people are really quick mocking Edgerrin Cooper to Green Bay. 6'2", 227. That seems a little small.
I agree.
I did not think he was going to come in that at that
Does that
weight.
Change to 4-3? Do you think, Jake? Does that change if we do go to a 4-3 or not? I can't imagine it would, right?
Maybe if you're playing will linebacker, in a different county out there on the boundary a little bit, I guess.
Right.
But he is injured, so we'll see. Maybe, gets healthy and he gets, back into the 230s at the combine. It's very possible. But that was just kind of a surprising thing to see because he was down at the Shrine Bowl and, I was kind of expecting, he's 6'2". I'm like, okay, be in the mid 230s and we're fine. We're good. And it did not work out that way. Peyton Wilson, North Carolina, man, really good player, really, really good player. It took him about 7 plays for him to start sniffing out where the tight ends are going in route concepts, and he's just closing and he's breaking up passes, and just he does everything really, really well at the linebacker position. Obviously, the concerns with him are he's 24 and he's had a healthy dose of injuries in his career, and that's where the concerns come up. But I don't know, he's 6'4", 234. I mean, he's got great size for the position too, and he's humming all over the field.
So you don't see any I don't mean to cut you off, but you don't see any restrictions as far as athletic ability?
No, he looks really, really, and he can move around too, and that's what's really, really exciting. North Carolina gave him North Carolina State, gave him a lot of responsibilities, and guys just doing everything they ask of him. And I think PFF loved his year too this past year, and I think it tracks. It is something special out there what he's doing. I know Cedric Gray is somebody else that Green Bay really likes. Green Bay fans at least really like to look at the linebacker position. I think he came in okay numbers wise, 6'1", 232. That's not the worst. He can definitely play in coverage for me anytime. Maybe that's the will linebacker there. But it seems like Green Bay might want to get, somebody bigger out there for the 4-3. If they want Quay to run and chase in coverage, and they think that's where to go. I know everybody. JT Bertrand, have a week, young fella. Really nice. Hey, 6'1", 235, but he was up to 19 miles per hour on a lot of the stuff. Yeah, he may be further down.
Bertrand,
there we go.
My man, look at that Golden Domer.
There
Let's
we
go.
But yeah, he was flying around. He was fast. The tracking technology was, the results were really good. He was leading linebackers in speed basically all week. And yeah, he's a feisty player. He came down and hit a few times when you really weren't supposed to do that. But I do think he really showed out this week. I think he kind of got on the radar, both him and Nathaniel Watson there from Mississippi State. So those, I think, linebackers interesting. I do think both Notre Dame guys could be fits. Lufau as well, who was down there. So they're definitely guys I think are worth watching.
Gotcha. Yeah, and that might be the answer to the question here, right? Like you maybe JD Bertrand does hang around and he has a high athletic score. Maybe Goody swoops him up a little later. He's currently sitting on the big board at 213. He peaked at 179. So I think it's pretty safe to say it probably falling somewhere between 290 and 200, or 190 and 200 on the rankings could be possible there. So that's interesting.
And Watson, by the way, from Mississippi State, was right next to him, 6'2", 244. Man, and he's a big boy. So if they want, the Mike, like they're gonna have they want a bigger guy out there.
Yeah,
he could be in that conversation as well.
Got it. Now, I know you mentioned Peyton Wilson and PFF was kind of high on him. They've got Peyton Wilson 69th on their big board. In 2021, his PFF grade was 59.3, only 51 snaps. 2022, he jumped to 639 snaps. His PFF grade was 69.5. And then 2023, 715 snaps, 89.8, the sixth highest graded linebacker. So, yeah, that's good stuff.
Love that kind of ascension right there.
Absolutely. Cornerback. Did anyone else show up other than that is not named Quinyon Mitchell? Because, my God, he controlled everything.
Man.
Let's just talk about him, man. I know we hit on it earlier in the week, but this guy's about to skyrocket up the boards, right?
I think he is. I think he is in serious cornerback one conversation.
Really?
He answered the one. He answered the one biggest concern everybody had with him this week. Maybe two, you could say. The first was, level of competition, right? Are you, is there enough competition in the MAC for you to, present yourself as like an elite player? Because you had 2 elite seasons in a row. And then after that, it was like, all right, can you play man coverage? That was the other biggest thing, because he was playing a ton of off coverage. And I know one of my buddies down there asked him about that. And he was like, is that something that Toledo was, were they hiding anything? Did they want you guys in off coverage? And Mitchell was like, no, that's just where I'm comfortable. I like being in off coverage. I can get my eyes on the quarterback and what everything's going on. And then
even with man, right? Like he can play off and look at the quarterback through his man out of peripheral and then pick him up in the catch, right? So
And what I think about that is really, really impressive is that this is exactly the type of player we saw, because you can just kind of pick him up and recover as you go.
Yeah.
Mitchell trusts his recovery athleticism all the time, and he should. And just the level of patience that he can play with. He's not opening the gate too early. He's not falling for any of these, pressure steps or jab steps the guys are throwing out there in the middle of the routes. He's not, because he knows, okay, I can recover to the outside, right? If somebody's going to pressure step outside, let the QB make that long throw. I'll get there,
Absolutely.
right? I'm going to be able to catch up to you vertically. Like, there's just really nothing that I don't think there's anything Mitchell cannot do. Like, I think it's him and Arnold right now for cornerback one. Those are the two guys. And I think Mitchell is a more patient player than Arnold is right now. And that might even be the difference. Like,
it's funny you mentioned patience too, because we had Coach Chris Haddad on, and he's just about 15 minutes outside of Foxborough, and he had the opportunity to go to a lot of coaching clinics that Jeff Hafley actually put on. And one of the techniques that Jeff Hafley teaches is kind of this quick little 6-inch outside step. And really they use it to govern themselves in not committing too soon when playing man coverage, and more specifically kind of a press or a mirror match press. And, just everything you're talking about with Quinyon Mitchell and him being patient and having the athleticism to recover if he is somewhat, quote unquote beat, it really goes hand in hand with what Coach Haddad was talking about, and how Jeff Hafley's probably going to teach our corners to play this technique of man. And we know Jeff's not going to get caught up in do it my way and no other way. That's one thing that's unique about Coach Hafley is everything I've seen as far as coaching clinics and all that stuff is he is like, look, we're going to try to teach you a certain way, But if you do it better another way, we're not going to change you, that type of approach. So it really sounds like someone like Quinyon Mitchell coming in. I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's the first thing that came to mind when you mentioned that was that 6-inch timing step, that governor, if you will, on the outside. It's going to delay the wide receiver's release because you're not declaring too early. And then the other aspect is by rerouting, you can eliminate what Coach had referred to as 75% of the route tree. So really,
and it's not like he wasn't not playing physical either. Like he's Ricky Pearsall tried. We talked about him a little bit earlier. Got him on the ground in a route this week. Like it's just he answered all the questions. If he's there at 25, you do not even hesitate. You walk up there very confidently. You put that paper down. You hand that over. Whatever you call it in, whatever they do. I don't know. I think it's still the same that they usually do. But like it's not a discussion. It isn't, to me at least.
Love it. And
if he's available.
PFF completely agrees. I mean, 2021, 79.7. Check this out, guys. 2022, 92.5, the highest graded corner in college football. 2023, 91.5, the highest graded corner in college football. Just like, I mean, 6 foot, 196, good size for a corner, like you said. That's a slam dunk, man. That's a dude that, like, it's almost feels like, and I wasn't there, but just seeing Twitter, hearing you talk about him the other night, watching the videos of the one-on-ones, it was like this dude just strutted up in the house and was like, listen, guys, don't even try.
This is my show.
This is my week.
Yeah. It's not your, it's mine. This is mine.
Yeah. Anybody else at corner sticks out to you? I know you mentioned Terrion Arnold, obviously out of Alabama. He's projected to go number 20 to Pittsburgh. He's 14 on the big board. Anything else you want to hit on there?
Yeah, a couple quick ones. Kalen King, man. Oh, got to start having a conversation about a Keely Ringo type of fall here to go from first round projection the year before and maybe possibly fall into day 3.
What happened?
I know it's just, I know they're not like the cornerbacks. I don't have the advantage here at all, but it was such an opportunity for King to kind of do the same thing Mitchell did, is to be like, all right, 2023 was an aberration. I am the guy I was in 22. And it just didn't feel like it was that way. He was just kind of whiffing when he was trying to press. He would get on his heels a little bit, and guys were just kind of beating him all week. And I know it's easier to do that as a receiver. I know it is. I understand that. So I'm not going to, it just felt like this was a great chance for Kane to come in and prove like, okay, I am that guy that I was in 22. Don't worry about 23. My best years are ahead of me. And it just didn't feel like that happened. And that was concerning. I know a couple others though. I know it's not like the best week for like a lot of, Green Bay types, because a lot of these guys are in the lower 180s. You get a Jarvis Brownlee from Louisville, who I thought competed his butt off this week. He's like 183. Abrams Drain from Missouri, another guy who I thought patient, aggressive when he needed to be, physical, but I believe he might even be 173. I don't think that's flying at 1265 Lombardi Avenue, folks. So no. I just don't think so. Burgers. Yeah, which stinks.
Goody, the first week is going to go up the 1919 Kitchen and Tap and get the elk stroganoff. All right,
right.
Eat 2 plates and come back down and talk.
Yeah, right. And then when you come back and talk to me, Tucker Kraft's going to drive you to a Culver's. All right, we're going to have a nice time. We're going to have a good time out there. But
with a bush latte and a lung dart.
But yeah, it's tough because there's like the Boston College kid did a nice job this week. Elijah Jones, and it's just like he's like 182. DJ James, up and down, but an exciting week. He's 170. Like, man, we are struggling. So it's just like, yeah, Max Melton, Kyrie Jackson, 2 guys who are probably, should be in that consideration to be Packers. But I do, Clayton, get excited. It's Golden Dome time.
Oh no.
Okay. We got to talk. We got to talk about Cam Hart, 6'2" and 7'8", 204. Yes, sir.
Ooh, okay.
Guy was up in press. Like he was physical. He was disrupting routes early and often. He ran a route for Tez Walker this week and picked the ball off.
Nice.
Right. And so like he had a nice week. It was kind of overshadowed a little bit because of Mitchell, because of some of the other guys who were, a little bit smaller on the other team kind of showing out a little bit, but Hart looked really, really impressive. I know Jackson is, where's his 6'3", 203, big cat as well. Whew. And then of course Max Melton, the quintessential Packer, right? 5'11", 193. And I know Drew put that in the comments. Jair was 5'10", 196. So Jair was even a little bit smaller, but he's still, close-ish to 200. Max Melton's kind of right in that wheelhouse. So got to circle, bringing them back the Melton brothers together. That would be great.
Hey, we got to do it, man.
Would love
and
to see
again,
that.
Max Melton sitting at 95, he peaked at 63. So it's not just the fact that Bo plays for the Packers. Like there's other people that are on this guy.
Oh yeah,
big time. And
nice
the other one you mentioned, Kalen King, just so you guys understand, a different angle. And like what Jake was mentioning, 2021 PFF grade 66.4, right? 2022 89.0, the eighth highest graded corner in the entire, in all of college football. 2023 dipped all the way down to 60.3, and now it sounds like he struggled at the Senior Bowl week. So yeah, it's some stock falling there, and you never know, man. Sometimes that's what it takes for a player to kind of shake it off and eat a little humble pie and turn it around, right? Maybe
for sure. You just got to wonder, right? So 2022, who was on the other side, potentially handling all the wide receiver ones? Joey Porter Jr., right? Maybe Porter Jr. is getting all the big time assignments, and King's assignments, while still, it's the Big Ten, it's big time football. Right. There's a lot of guys to handle, but that's maybe just wonder that the assignments weren't maybe as difficult, and then he had to kind of step into the, all right, I'm following guys,
put his big boy pants on.
Right. And it kind of was like, okay, this is kind of a different level. I understand Joey's calling him like, I told you, it's tough, man. It's tough. It's tough out there, out on an island. And so like,
yeah,
hopefully he can bounce back. It'd be great to see him, if he falls to day 3 and then just comes out and says, and finds it, would be really cool.
Yeah, I mean, he peaked at 13, but he's sitting at 44, projected to go to the Giants at 47. Obviously, that's before all this information coming out of Senior Bowl week, so we'll see what happens there.
Which, I mean, Senior Bowl week, 3 days. I know it's not going to move the needle a ton for scouts, but they've already got, the 23 film on there, and they're kind of going, okay, it might have been, a good time for a bounce back, and it just didn't happen.
Definitely. All right, we're going to wrap it up with kicker talk. No, I'm joking. We're going to wrap it up with safety talk. All right, here we. Some people went, yes, please, kicker. Calm down. All right, calm down. We're going to give honors another
one.
So safety position, I really feel like you got to take 2 shots in this draft and 2 shots early. Now that means Goody won't even draft one. That's usually how that goes when I project stuff. But
yeah,
obviously you guys know I'm big on Tyler Nubin. He wasn't at Senior Bowl week. Kinchins was. He's the top safety, obviously going into the draft. Talk to me about the safeties, man. Let's just go down the line here. Jake, what did you see down there, bro?
Yeah, I think Kinchins, it was a little up and down. They were asking him to do a lot of stuff in man coverage. Not really his skill set. But there was enough movement skills, I think, at times where, you kind of saw the vision with that and was like, all right, yeah, he can kind of handle himself. There are other times where he's just kind of getting beat, and it's tougher, right? He's going up against the tight ends. They're bigger than him. Jaheim Bell was, a guy that at Florida State went to South Carolina first. And at South Carolina, they were giving him jet sweeps. Why? Well, because he's super fast. So Jaheim Bell was a tough assignment for everybody because he's so fast. And so like for Kinchins, man coverage, that's probably not where we're going to be, operating a ton in the league. And he's got a ton of range. He's got a ton of upside. He hits hard, right? I think it's just about, to me, it's the ceiling is really high. We got to build some consistency. And he's a younger player, right? He's a junior. Nubin's a senior. I believe he might be even 5th year. Nubin is. He's at least a 4th.
Nubin was a senior, didn't go to the Senior Bowl. Kinchins was a junior, and he went to the Senior Bowl.
Yeah,
right?
So this is the first year that the juniors got some invites, and so that was pretty exciting. But yeah, I mean, the Nubin Kinchins discussion is gonna ring for about 12 more weeks about like, all right, which one should it be? Which one should it be? Is it going to be the classic, okay, Goody's swinging for the fence with a Kitchens because he believes in the upside? Or is Goody going to finally be like, all right, we need to hit this double right here in the second round. Let's go get Tyler Nubin. It's going to be a fascinating discussion. Obviously, the big board has been projected to Green Bay 31. Nubin sounds great to me. We can do that. But like Kinchins, yeah, it's Donald put this down there. He's an upside pick. That's really where we're at right now. There aren't a lot of true single high players in the league. Kinchins could be one of them. And that's important for Hafley potentially doing some middle field close stuff. So
I'll tell you what I like, man. I like what we did the other night here. 41 Kinchins, 58
pretty
Newton.
good.
Lock it
Looks
in,
pretty
man.
good.
Lock
Peyton
it.
Wilson, Max Melton.
There they all are. Man. We
That's
nailed it.
what
We knew
I'm
what was
talking
going to happen
about.
this senior week. Man,
Yeah, we knew who was breaking out.
Absolutely.
Right.
So
one more name to drop for this, because I think it's a good one, because you mentioned, like, okay, could we take two swings? Maybe one's a little bit later, right?
Mhm.
Obviously, Bo Bray didn't practice all week and didn't play in the game. That's the guy who kind of dropped into the box, looked good, processing was nice. He's hitting, he wants to play physical football, but you might not be limiting his position at all. He might be able to do a lot of different things. Could he play single high? Probably not. But if we're in split field, and that's a lot of the same things as Newman, right? It's kind of like, okay, the vision is there if we can play more split field stuff that Green Bay's done in recent years. But Keaton Oladapo from Oregon State, holy smokes, 6'2", 219, and he can cover and he can hit. And a little further down the board there, but really, really had the type of like ascension you like to see, like working on the coverage technique, the pedal, all that stuff, and just looked like things were clicking for him throughout the week. So I think Oladapo is definitely one to watch.
Good stuff. And I'm trying to gather as much information on Jeff Hafley as I can. Obviously. So what I'm coming away with, Jake, is Coach Hafley is going to bring a single high approach. It's probably going to be from the vein of a Robert Saleh type defense. So you're going to see what we're seeing is definitely more man coverage, although, like I've been trying to curb the enthusiasm, don't expect to see this ungodly amount of man coverage. And to put it in perspective, like we mentioned on Good Morning Lambeau, the Atlanta Falcons ran the most man coverage of anyone last year, right? This past year here. They ran man coverage more than anyone in the league, and they ran it 40% of the time. So where did the Packers come in? They ran man coverage 23% of the time. Okay. Yeah. So what I'm expecting, I was kind of talking to Ryan with this offline. If I were to project and you say, hey, you've got to bet the farm on it, what percentage do you think of man coverage? I don't think they're going to take this massive jump and go, we're just going to go 40% man, right? I think you're probably going to see somewhere between 30 to 35% man would be a good guesstimate for me. You're going to see plenty of zone. You heard him talk about they like to play too high in the college game because of the mobile quarterbacks. So at the pro level, he kind of hinted at, and this was a interview while he was at Boston College. This is before he took the job, so it's not like he's worried about tipping hands. He didn't know he was going to be the DC in Green Bay when he had this interview. So I think what you're going to see is a lot of cover one man. You're going to see a lot of 5-man pressure the majority of the time. You'll see some 6 as well. You'll see some exotic mugging up front, which is exciting. We've seen a little bit of that with Joe last year. I don't think we've seen nothing to the level we'll see with Hafley. But for the most part, he just likes to line that safety up in the middle of the field and go, all right, we're in single high, whether it's cover 1 man or it's cover 3 match, whatever it is, we're going to show we're in cover 1 and we're going to get our guys in position pre-snap, as where Joe Barry was trying to show shell, spin out of it. And guys were, as Mike Wall says, how you arrive at confrontation determines how you handle confrontation. They were arriving off balance, and probably I love that aspect. I think that'll help the run defense a bit. But when you look at those safeties we just talked about, Kinchins, Nubins, and is it Oladapo? Is that right?
Yeah.
Which one of those do you think would be best suited to play that center field if we are cover 1 man as well as playing that that deep third, middle third in a cover 3 zone match?
It's Kinchins.
Kinchins
all day. It's Kinchins all day.
That's what I needed to know.
There's a chance that Newman can do it. Mm-hmm. It's just, I think Newman's going to be more comfortable having eyes on half the field and be able to, bolt to the ball, read the quarterback's eyes, and also then, fill from depth as a run defender. He just screams like, okay, this is exactly the player like Joe Barry would have liked to have in his defense.
Got it.
And somebody that Barry and Goody may have, talked to each other about in another parallel universe, in a few weeks, they'll be talking about it. Right. And it'll be like, okay, yeah, this guy just kind of everything, I can spin out of some coverages. He can maybe drop in the box and tackle a little bit too. And so it would give him, a player that could, be deployed in his system. And it just might not sound exactly like the player that Hafley envisions to have on his team. And maybe they go with Kinchins on the center field. And I know Antonio brought him up Cole Bishop. Maybe he's the kind of the box guy that they want to have there who can do some linebacker stuff, tackles, exceptionally well. And he was down there Senior Bowl week. He didn't like jump out a ton, but he also didn't there was nothing where it was like, oh, this is poor or anything like that. Just kind of steady eddied the week. But the film, tells a pretty good story about what he can do. So
got it.
So it'll be interesting. The safety conversation is going to be one that I'm sure we're going to be having a ton in the next 12 weeks of all right, who's it going to be? How much is the safety pick going to, kind of just basically paint what the picture that Hafley is painting. I think it's going to be the finishing touch to a picture, and we're going to get, a really good idea.
Yeah, I feel comfortable saying we're going to be in nickel the large majority of the time, which most teams are, right?
Yeah.
So if that's the case, one other thing that I noticed on tape so far, and I'm digging into the BC tape, I'm really not touching the Ohio State tape because I'm getting so many answers from different people that, he ran the entire show to, I've got Ohio State fans who have told me he didn't call plays. It was the other guy. So it's like, I'm tired of trying to figure it out. I'm focused on BC. I'm going back and looking at Saleh last year. And I think what you're going to see when you're in man coverage, he likes to fire those 3-3 cat blitzes where you've got 3 over the top, 3 underneath with the nickel firing. If that's the case, that opposite safety is going to have to come down and play some match principle, play some man coverage at times. So I don't know if that's Nubin or not. Again, I'm big on Nubin, but everyone other than me is saying Kinchins is your guy for that deep safety. So I've got to lower the ego and go, all right, let's just go.
I'm with you. I think I 100% think Nubin's the better player. I think I'm on that train now. I finished up the Kinchins stuff. I know Donald said Jake Prowse is Kinchins videos coming out Monday. It is.
Yeah, I was going to put that up here.
Promise. We're there. It's loaded and ready to go for Monday. That's when people are on YouTube a lot, is on Monday. I'm not as much Sunday. Anyway, not to get into that whole thing, but Nubin's the better player right now. There's no question. Everything that he can do at the safety position, it is going to legitimately for Green Bay come down to who's the best fit for Hafley, for Hafley's vision. And right now, everything that Clayton, you kind of talked about in the Chalk Talk a lot, and we kind of heard from the coach this morning. It just seems like they're going to be in, the middle field close is where they're going to operate.
Right.
And I'm not entirely sure Nubin can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Kinchins has proven to, from middle field to the boundary is can make plays in that regard. It's tough to find those guys. And so when you see one of those, it's kind of like, we better pounce, right? Because that's why Jesse Bates is getting a ton of money in Atlanta right now, because you've seen the type of range that he has. And when he has instincts to boot, goodness sakes, we are swooning over here watching the guy play. So if Kinchins can develop those type of instincts, man, we got a player. So it's a tough call. And Drew says it perfectly. Nubin relies on the instinct, and that's what makes him so effective, is because, when the athletic testing is going to come in, a month or so, people might be like, oh, what's this? This isn't the best that I've seen. And then Nubin's just going to go do what Branch did or something, right? Not necessarily the same position, but just go dominate. And people are like, well, what is there to say?
What do you do?
What happened? We should have taken him earlier. And that's what's going to happen. And so that's the other thing, Kinchins running and Kinchins jumping and doing all these things, the athletic score. I think that Goody, I know it's not the same one that we kind of refer to a lot, probably. Maybe it is.
Right.
Goody just wants to, act like he's got a nice little system up there. But we'll never know. But
you don't want to kind of check the math bombs, what it is.
Yeah, right. They're gonna check it out. But Kinchins is probably gonna come in as the better athlete. And so then we have that conversation of what does Goody like at the safety position? The athletes. Kinchins a little bit higher on the list. It's going to be it's fun. That's what makes the draft so interesting. You got to fit. And that's what makes, I think, this offseason for Green Bay so interesting, because now it's okay, what personnel stuff is going to be tweaked here, and how does that affect the draft? It's exciting.
I would love to be a fly on the wall with a Goody, LaFleur, and Hafley when they sit down and go, all right, what do we want at safety? I would love to hear that conversation, because he may come in and do something totally opposite. You know what I mean? We might look up and go, what in the world were we thinking? We're idiots, right? So
wait a minute. Hafley's running Barry's defense. What's going on?
What was this?
I was told middle field closed.
Right.
Man.
It's what an off season, man.
Yeah.
The fans have been awesome. Viewers, listeners, feedback. It's like everyone is. I know we lost in the playoffs, right? And no matter how you look at it, you're ending on a quote unquote negative note. But it was like 5 minutes later, everybody's like, "Man, let's get into this off season. It's exciting, man. It's exciting." And you got to give. That's where you've got to tip your cap to Goody and go. That Jordan Love pick is the reason we are here right now. Like he laid it all out there. Everything. Yes, absolutely.
W for Goody right there. That's it. Yeah. Don't care about the rest of that 2020 draft. Who cares? Doesn't matter. Got the QB. And miss then on everything else if you want.
Openly comes out in the presser and says, "Yeah, we're going to be talking to his representation about getting that." I'm just like, "Yes, let's get it.
Let's go. Let's go.
Make that contract long too, so we have a little bit of flexibility." That's the other thing too, Jake's like, we got some money. It doesn't look like it right now, but you've got, the
next
anywhere from 50 to 80 million that you can free up like that. And we're not talking about like they're not going to get nowhere near the 80. But if you've got 50 real easily restructured, you're definitely looking at 35 to 40 million. So they may make a little bit of a little bargain deal here, a bargain deal there in free agency. Get your safety of the future. And I'm excited, dude. It's going to be awesome.
How can you not be? Yeah. It's young team ascending, about to add a lot more young talent to the roster, patch some holes in free agent. I mean,
no doubt.
Buckle up, folks. Buckle up.
We went for an hour and 40 minutes, and Jake, I can't thank you enough, man, for hanging out this long, dude. This was absolutely awesome. I've got a ton of notes, and these are. I don't want to say congratulations. That's egotistical. I just want to let you know that there is now an official modifier in my draft board for what Jake Shavink thinks about prospects, and it's exciting. And I didn't do it last year because we didn't know each other from Adam, right? But this year, it's like, I'm trusting Jake's opinion. There's going to be a modifier in there where we go, all right, he's going to have some input on my draft board. There's going to be some shifting taking place based off of your experience, your knowledge, and I just love the way you communicate, man, everything you do. So glad we're on the same team, Bill. I got to say.
Yeah, man. Yeah, absolutely. Shows like this are really fun where you can get together and just chop it up for a while. And that's what's really exciting. That's what's really nice about, all the platforms we have today to be able to do this, which is great. So I can't wait to do this again.
Absolutely.
Very, very soon, of course.
Definitely. You guys scan the QR code in the upper right. If you're watching this on YouTube and going, man, I like to listen to stuff on the go. You can scan that QR code. It'll send you directly to Packernet Podcast Network on pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts. We got all the platforms covered. You can find Jake Shavink's It's Always Draft Season podcast. Absolutely phenomenal content. You can find Ryan Schlip's Packernet podcast, as well as Packernet After Dark, the show where you listeners can call in, leave a voicemail, and Ryan will play it over the air as long as it's not inappropriate and answer your question or respond to your comments. It's my favorite podcast every day. I absolutely look forward to it. So go check that out, gang. Also, make sure you hop over to Jake Shavink's YouTube channel. Give him a sub. Going to be way better content over there this time of year than I'll ever put out when it comes to draft coverage. So, Jake, again, thank you so much, buddy. Appreciate your time. What I'll also do if you're wanting it, we'll get this downloaded in video form so you can throw it on your channel as well. That way, your viewers that don't want to fool with us can check it out and get all the information you just shared. So,
I'm almost positive I have more viewers over there because of your show here, Clayton. So this is it's very helpful. Oh no. I recognize plenty of these names over here that have popped over there because of that. So I really appreciate
I apologize because I guarantee you they're causing trouble over there. So it's probably gotten way more unprofessional. That's our fault. We have completely molded these people into it's the chat sometimes. We get off the rails, man. We can't. I'm in the middle of something serious. And both Emilio and Jacob's like this because someone says something like that. It's completely off the rails. So, anyway, we appreciate you.
We know that derailed happens. That happens always too. So it's
absolutely. Give a special shout out to United Bates, always being a blessing. He gifted 5 Packer Fan Total Access membership to loyal listeners. That'll get you guys entered into the contest. We're going to be doing a drawing real soon for an autographed rookie Jaden Reed card. Really
sweet. Yes.
And now ironically, or coincidentally, I should say, was actually donated by United Baits, just always given. So really cool piece of memorabilia. Yeah. So I've created a couple fake accounts, so I can try to get mine. No, I'm just joking. I haven't. So anyway, we're out of here, guys. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us again. Jake, thank you. For those of you listening on the pod, thank you for making us a part of your day. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world, and go back.
The power sweep. Actually, it's the lead play in our offense.
We ask our YN or a tight end to open up somewhere between 6 feet and 9 feet. Get an isolation with the linebacker. Tell the tackle to take the defensive end if he's over him. If he's not, to drive down on the first man to his inside. If the YN has the linebacker taken out, he cuts inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. If you look at this play, what we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here, and try to run this play in the alley.